Hi, writers. I've been thinking a lot about inspiration and the stories that you guys wrote, being inspired by Mama Sewing and um, published writers, it makes me think about like how it's so important for us when we're learning anything, whether it's how to ride a bike or swim or run a marathon, that we learn from people who have done the work and put in all the sweat to get their final product. So I wanted to share with you today a story from a student. And what I want to do with this story is to really study it, to think about what is this writer who's the same age as you, what is this writer doing? What kinds of things is this writer doing that we could also do in our own writing? And when we look at another person's writing, we're going to use this fancy word, which means to study, which is analyze. So analyze means to study and look closely at something. And we're going to analyze this writing and study and look closely at it. So today we're going to analyze this story called Goosebumps. And we're going to see what kinds of things that this writer does that we can also do as writers. There is our learning objective. So, oops, little malfunction here. Okay, so I'm going to read this story, Goosebumps, and I'm going to think about what kinds of things are in this story that we can put in our own story. What kinds of things is this writer doing? What kinds of craft are they using that we can also use in our story? And I've made a little chart up here, and it will also be on your Google slide when you go to do your work, is what are we learning from other writers that we can do too. So I'm going to read and stop a little bit from time to time and really think about what is this writer doing. So this story is called Goosebumps. I held up my knee-length nightgown. My mom held up my fleece ankle-length pajamas. Why should I wear those? I said. I wondered why she wanted me to wear fleece on a warm summer night in Montana. So I'm going to stop for a second right there. Like right away, I'm noticing that this writer uses dialogue. Why should I wear these? I said. So I'm going to put dialogue up on our chart here. So one thing that writers do that we can also do is add dialogue. Because that sounds like something you would say to your mom, right? Like, why do I have to wear these warm pajamas? It's summer. Okay, then mom says back, it gets very cold in the night, my mom said with a serious look on. I gave her a look, and she looked right back at me for a moment. There was silence. Ooh. So right away I see that there's this conflict, right? Right? I have this conflicts often with my daughter. Like, mom said, I'm telling you that it gets cold. Daughter saying, it's summer, right? So we have a conflict. So writers can add conflicts into their story to sort of like make this moment stronger. Let's see. I looked right back at her. Then she let out a long sigh. I could tell I'd won because she was putting away the pajamas. As I said on my own, as I said, what does that word say? As I said on my own nightgown, I could feel my mom herd me to my bed. I stopped and climbed in. I pulled up my light sheets. My mom opened her mouth and said, put on your wool cover and over you, I'm serious. I gave her a look. She let out a sigh. She hugged me and whispered in my ear, good night. All right, so I'm thinking there's still this like tension going on between mother and daughter. So like with conflict, there's always this tension, this like fight that the mother and the daughter are having. Like mom keeps saying, put on the warm pajamas. The daughter's like, it's summer, I'm not going to. Mom, she puts on her light sheet. Mom says, you're going to want to use a wool blanket. And the daughter's like, and mom just keeps sighing. So we know that mom is frustrated and upset because she just keeps sighing. Okay. I woke up with a tingle. I'm right here, guys, in the story, and I'll have the story also on the Google Slides for you. I woke up with a tingle. I sat up in my bed. I looked at the clock. Only 10 minutes went by. I looked at my arms, and they were covered in goosebumps. So there's like a couple of things happening here. We've got some details, right? I'm going to add another thing that I hadn't thought of before. We have the changing of time. Let's call that the passing of time. Passing, only 10 minutes had passed. Passing of time, right? So we have the details about the goosebumps. We have the passing of the time, right? So her arms were covered in goosebumps, and so were her legs. I felt like I had dropped 30 degrees. I bent down and grabbed the wool blanket and pulled it up with me with a sigh of relief. As I got comfy in my mind soared. I thought about all the times my mom had been right. Like the time my mom told me to pack an extra snack. I didn't, and I got hungry. Or the time I didn't wear rain boots when my mom told me, and I got cold. And the time my mom told me to put on sunblock, and I didn't, and I got a really bad sunburn. But out of all of my thoughts, I wondered why I acted like that. Was I cranky or mad? But before I could think, my eyes got heavy and started to close. Before I knew it, everything was black and then gone. So, along with conflict and tension, there's usually some sort of a solution in the story. I want you to think for a minute, what are some other things that this writer has in their well-developed piece of writing? What are some things that this writer has that you could also have in yours? So think back for a minute. I'll scroll up to this part of the story and you can take a look. Just jot anything down. You could write it in your notebook. And just think of some other things that this writer has that you could also put into your story. I'm going to give you a minute to think. All right, did you get a few things? I thought of a couple other things that I'm going to put on our chart here. This writer also puts in a lot of their thoughts, like thinking about, like, why would she tell me this? Like, it's summer and I'm not wearing a fleece. I'm not putting wool on me. Like, all of that is happening in this writer's head. It's not coming out of their mouth. It's happening in their head. Also, what I noticed when I was looking over this a little bit is that there's a lot of descriptions about the setting, like the cold Montana nights, the fleece pajamas, the cool, like, light sheet that she has on. I also thought about some actions that the writer did. She lifted the wool blanket up to keep herself warm. And then at the end, what I really liked during the solution is that the writer has a realization. It's almost like a memory, a flashback of all the different things that she knew that her mom was right, and no matter what, she didn't listen to her mom. So all of these things that we read from a writer who's the same age as you guys, all of these things that we're learning, you guys can put into your writing too. So what I'd like you to do today is go back into your writer's notebook or start a new story today and think about all of these things. And maybe if it's a story that you've already have in your writer's notebook, maybe there's a place where you might be able to add some tension, or maybe there's a place where you want to put some more actions in it, Or if you want to write a new story today, look back at the lists that you've made so far and see how you might be able to make sure there's a conflict or that there's time that passes, even if it's only 10 minutes of time that passes, and see how you might be able to add into your story some of the things that this writer did as well. And also on the Google document, I'll have this story for you, and we'll have this chart for you guys to use so when you're doing your independent work today, you can reference it. Wish you good luck, writers, and I look forward to reading what you put down in your notebook today. Bye-bye.